Breaking barriers, the rise of Black women in gun ownership, and the transformation of community safety. Imagine a world where safety isn't a privilege, but a right exercised by all. A world where women of color stand tall, confident in their ability to protect themselves and their loved ones. This isn't a far off dream, it's a reality that's unfolding right before our eyes, thanks to visionaries like Adrienne Goines, the founder of Sisters of Steel Gun Club, LLC. Today, we're diving deep into the insights from my powerful conversation with Adrienne, a true trailblazer who's not just changing lives, but reshaping our entire understanding of gun ownership and community safety. Adrienne Goines is more than just a gun club founder. She's a catalyst for change, a beacon of empowerment, and a force to be reckoned with in the fight for equality and safety. Her work is challenging long held beliefs, transforming communities, and paving the way for a more inclusive and secure future for all. The impact of her efforts ripples beyond the shooting range, touching lives and inspiring change across the nation. For too long, we've been fed a narrative that the Second Amendment community is a man's world, dominated by a particular demographic. But let me tell you, that narrative is as outdated as a flip phone in 2023. The face of gun ownership in America is changing, and it's changing fast. Black women are stepping up, taking charge of their safety, and redefining what it means to be a responsible gun owner. And let me tell you, the numbers are staggering. According to the National African American Gun Association, nearly 87% of gun stores nationwide reported an increase in Black women buying firearms in just the first 6 months of 2021. That's not just a trend, that's a revolution. But why this sudden surge? And what's driving this seismic shift in gun ownership demographics? The answer lies in a perfect storm of societal factors that have brought issues of personal safety and community protection to the forefront of our collective consciousness. The pandemic, with its accompanying surge in crime rates and social unrest, served as a wake-up call for many. It highlighted vulnerabilities that had long been ignored or swept under the rug. For Black women, who have historically been at the intersection of multiple forms of discrimination and violence, the need for self-defense became more pressing than ever. But this isn't just about owning a firearm. It's about empowerment. It's about education. It's about taking control of one's own safety and becoming an active participant in community protection. And that's where organizations like Sisters of Steel Gun Club come into play. Adrienne Goines and her team are not just selling guns. They're selling a vision of empowerment through education. They're training women of color to be their own first responders, equipping them with the knowledge and skills to handle firearms responsibly and effectively. But their impact goes beyond individual empowerment. They're reshaping entire communities. Through free children's safety classes, they're tackling the issue of gun violence at its roots. They're teaching the next generation about responsible gun ownership, about respect for firearms, and about the importance of community safety. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Isn't more guns just going to lead to more violence? It's a valid concern, but it's based on a fundamental misunderstanding of what responsible gun ownership looks like. You see, organizations like Sisters of Steel Gun Club aren't just handing out firearms. They're providing comprehensive education and training. They're teaching conflict resolution, de-escalation techniques, and the legal and ethical responsibilities that come with gun ownership. In essence, they're creating a community of informed, responsible gun owners who understand that a firearm is a tool of last resort, not a first response. And the results speak for themselves. The rise in Black women gun owners hasn't led to an increase in gun violence. Instead, it's led to more empowered communities, more educated gun owners, and a shift in the conversation around gun ownership and community safety. But let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. This isn't just about gun ownership. This is about challenging stereotypes and breaking down barriers. It's about reclaiming spaces that have historically excluded women of color. It's about asserting our right to safety and self-defense, regardless of gender or race. The Second Amendment community has long been perceived as a monolith, predominantly male, predominantly white. But that perception is changing, and it's changing fast. Black women are now the fastest growing group of gun owners in America. Between January 2019 and April 2021, 21% of first-time gun buyers were Black and 48% were women. These aren't just statistics. They're a clarion call for change. This shift is forcing us to rethink our assumptions about who a typical gun owner is. It's challenging gun manufacturers and retailers to cater to a more diverse customer base. It's pushing firearms instructors to develop training programs that address the specific needs and concerns of women of color. But more importantly, it's fostering a sense of community and solidarity among Black women gun owners. It's creating spaces where women can learn, practice, and grow together. Spaces where they can share their experiences, voice their concerns, and support each other in their journey towards empowerment and self reliance. Take Sisters of Steel Gun Club, for instance. In 2023, it became the fastest growing all women's gun club in the National African American Gun Association. That's not just growth, that's a movement that's set to expand even further with plans for virtual chapters and many classes in the pipeline. But here's the thing, this movement isn't about separation or segregation. It's not about creating a parallel Second Amendment community for women of color. No, it's about integration. It's about ensuring that the Second Amendment community as a whole becomes more inclusive, more diverse, and more representative of America as it is today. As Adrienne Goines so powerfully put it, we all want the same in the 2A community, and it shouldn't be separated because of the color of our skin. We should work together to join forces to uphold the Second Amendment right. And that's the crux of the matter. This isn't about division, it's about unity. It's about recognizing that our strength lies in our diversity. It's about understanding that when we empower one group, we empower all of us. But achieving this unity requires more than just passive acceptance. It requires active effort. It requires gun shops to create welcoming environments for all customers. It requires firearms instructors to develop culturally competent training programs. It requires established gun owners to welcome newcomers with open arms, regardless of their race or gender. And most importantly, it requires all of us to challenge our own biases and preconceptions, to question the stereotypes we've internalized about who can or should own a gun, to recognize that the face of gun ownership in America is changing, and that this change is not just inevitable, it's necessary. Because here's the truth, a more diverse, inclusive Second Amendment community is a stronger community. It's a community that's better equipped to advocate for our rights. It's a community that's more in touch with the needs and concerns of all Americans. It's a community that can more effectively promote responsible gun ownership and community safety. But let's be clear, this isn't just about gun ownership. This is about empowerment in its broadest sense. It's about women of color taking control of their own safety, yes, but it's also about them taking control of their own narratives. It's about challenging the stereotypes that have long pigeonholed Black women as victims rather than protectors, as vulnerable rather than strong. Through organizations like Sisters of Steel Gun Club, Black women are rewriting that narrative. They're saying, we are strong, we are capable, we are our own protectors. And in doing so, they're not just changing how others see them, they're changing how they see themselves. This self-perception shift is perhaps the most powerful aspect of this movement. Because when a woman learns to handle a firearm responsibly, when she becomes confident in her ability to protect herself and her loved ones, that confidence spills over into other areas of her life. It changes how she carries herself in the world. It changes how she interacts with others. It changes how she views her own potential. And that change, that empowerment, ripples out into the community. It inspires other women to take control of their own safety. It challenges men to see women as equals in all aspects of life. It creates a cycle of empowerment that lifts entire communities. But let's not sugarcoat it. This journey isn't without its challenges. Black women entering the world of gun ownership often face a double dose of discrimination. They have to contend with the sexism that's still prevalent in some corners of the gun community, as well as the racism that unfortunately persists in our society. They often have to work twice as hard to be taken seriously as gun owners. They have to navigate a system that wasn't designed with them in mind. They have to deal with microaggressions and outright hostility from those who believe they don't belong in this space. But here's the thing, they're doing it anyway. They're pushing through these barriers. They're claiming their space, and they're changing the face of gun ownership in America. And in doing so, they're not just empowering themselves, they're paving the way for others to follow. This is why organizations like Sisters of Steel Gun Club are so crucial. They provide a safe space for Black women to learn, to practice, to grow. They offer support and community in what can often be an intimidating and isolating journey. They serve as a bridge, helping women transition from novice gun owners to confident, responsible firearms users. but their impact goes beyond just gun ownership. These organizations are fostering leadership. They're creating mentorship opportunities. They're building networks of support that extend far beyond the shooting range. In essence, they're creating a new generation of empowered Black women leaders who are ready to take on challenges in all areas of life. Now, I can already hear some of you thinking, but isn't this just perpetuating the cycle of violence? Aren't we just adding more guns to an already gun saturated society? And I understand those concerns. They are valid and they deserve to be addressed. But here's what we need to understand: responsible gun ownership isn't about escalating violence, it's about prevention, it's about deterrence. It's about creating a society where potential aggressors think twice before victimizing someone because they know that person might be capable of defending themselves. Moreover, organizations like Sisters of Steel Gun Club aren't just teaching women how to shoot, they're teaching conflict resolution, they're teaching de escalation techniques, they're teaching the legal and ethical responsibilities that come with gun ownership. In other words, they're creating a community of gun owners who understand that a firearm is a tool of absolute last resort. And let's not forget the impact on children. By offering free safety classes for kids, these organizations are tackling the issue of gun violence at its roots. They're teaching children to respect firearms, not to fear them or be fascinated by them. They're instilling values of responsibility and community safety from a young age. This education is crucial in preventing accidental shootings and in fostering a culture of responsible gun ownership for the next generation. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of this movement is its potential to bridge divides. Gun ownership has long been a polarizing issue in America, often split along political and racial lines. But as more Black women enter this space, they're challenging these traditional divides. They're forcing us to rethink our assumptions about who supports gun rights and why. This has the potential to create new alliances, to foster dialogue between groups that have traditionally been at odds. It opens up possibilities for finding common ground, for developing more nuanced, inclusive approaches to gun rights and gun safety. And isn't that what we need in America today? More dialogue, more understanding, more recognition of our shared hopes and fears. The rise of Black women in gun ownership isn't just changing the face of the Second Amendment community, it's offering us a path towards a more united, more empowered America. Let's delve deeper into the stories that illustrate this powerful shift. Remember the data from the National African American Gun Association, that 87% increase in Black women buying firearms in the first half of 2021 isn't just a statistic. It represents thousands of individual stories, thousands of women making the decision to take control of their safety. Take Sarah, for example, a single mother of two in Chicago. Sarah never imagined herself as a gun owner, but after a series of break ins in her neighborhood, she felt vulnerable and afraid. That's when she discovered Sisters of Steel Gun Club. Through their training program, Sarah not only learned how to safely handle a firearm, but also gained a new sense of confidence and empowerment. It's not just about the gun, Sarah says. It's about knowing that I have the skills and the knowledge to protect myself and my children. I walk taller now. I feel stronger. Or consider the story of Latasha, a community organizer in Atlanta. Latasha was initially skeptical of gun ownership, associating it with violence rather than protection. But after attending a community safety workshop organized by a local women's gun club, her perspective changed. I realized that responsible gun ownership isn't about aggression, Latasha explains. It's about preparedness, about being able to defend your community. Now, I'm not just an advocate for gun safety, I'm an instructor teaching other women in my community how to protect themselves. These stories are being replicated across the country from big cities to small towns. They represent a grassroots movement of empowerment and that's changing the face of gun ownership in America. But it's not just individual stories that are making an impact. Organizations like Sisters of Steel Gun Club are creating ripple effects that extend far beyond their immediate members. Take their children's safety classes, for instance. By teaching kids about gun safety from a young age, they're not just preventing accidents, they're reshaping attitudes towards firearms for an entire generation. They're creating a future where responsible gun ownership is the norm, not the exception. And the impact doesn't stop there. As more Black women become gun owners, they're also becoming advocates for broader community safety initiatives. They're getting involved in local politics, pushing for better lighting in high crime areas, advocating for more community policing programs. In essence, they're taking a holistic approach to safety that goes far beyond just owning a firearm. They're becoming leaders in their communities, voices for change and empowerment. But let's be clear, this movement isn't without its challenges. Black women entering the world of gun ownership often face a unique set of obstacles. They have to navigate a space that has historically been dominated by white men, often facing both racial and gender based discrimination. Many gun shops and ranges aren't designed with women in mind, let alone women of color. Finding appropriate training, gear, and support can be a challenge. And then there's the societal stigma, the raised eyebrows, the questioning looks, the assumptions about why a black woman would want to own a gun. But here's the thing, these challenges aren't stopping black women. If anything, they're fueling their determination. They're creating their own spaces, their own support networks, their own training programs. They're not asking for permission to enter the world of gun ownership. They're claiming their space and redefining what that world looks like. And in doing so, they're not just changing themselves, they're changing the entire landscape of gun ownership in America. They're forcing the industry to evolve to become more inclusive, more diverse, more representative of America as a whole. This shift has implications that extend far beyond the world of firearms. It's challenging deeply ingrained societal stereotypes about Black women, about strength, about vulnerability. It's forcing us to confront our assumptions about who needs protection and who can provide it. It's also opening up new conversations about community safety, about the role of firearms in society, about the intersection of race, gender, and self-defense. These are complex, often uncomfortable conversations, but they're necessary ones if we want to create a safer, more equitable society for all. But perhaps most importantly, this movement is about empowerment in its broadest sense. It's about Black women saying, we have the right to feel safe. We have the right to protect ourselves. We have the right to be strong. And that message of empowerment extends far beyond gun ownership. It's inspiring Black women to claim their space in other male dominated fields, to speak up against injustice, to demand their rights in all areas of life. So, where do we go from here? How do we support this movement and ensure that it continues to grow and evolve in positive ways? First and foremost, we need to listen. We need to hear the stories of Black women, gun owners, to understand their motivations, their challenges, their triumphs. We need to recognize that their experiences and perspectives are valid and valuable. Secondly, we need to support organizations like Sisters of Steel Gun Club, whether through donations, volunteering, or simply spreading the word about their work. We can help ensure that more women of color have access to the education and training they need to become responsible gun owners. Third, we need to challenge our own biases and assumptions. We need to question the stereotypes we hold about gun owners, about Black women, about safety and protection. We need to be willing to have our preconceptions challenged and our minds opened. Fourth, we need to advocate for more inclusive policies and practices in the gun industry. This means pushing for more diverse representation in marketing materials, demanding culturally competent training programs, and supporting businesses that create welcoming environments for all gun owners. And finally, we need to recognize that this movement is part of a larger struggle for equality and empowerment. Supporting Black women in gun ownership means supporting Black women in all areas of life, in education, in business, in politics, in every sphere where their voices have been historically marginalized. As we wrap up this discussion, I want to leave you with a challenge. I want you to think about how you can contribute to this movement. How can you support the empowerment of Black women, whether in the context of gun ownership or in other areas of life? How can you challenge your own biases and help create a more inclusive society? Remember, change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when individuals come together, when they challenge the status quo, when they dare to imagine a different future. The rise of Black women in gun ownership is more than just a trend. It's a testament to the power of community, education, and empowerment. So let's take inspiration from Adrienne Goines and the countless other Black women who are breaking barriers and redefining what it means to be a gun owner in America. Let's support their journey, learn from their experiences, and work together to create a safer, more empowered, more inclusive society for all. The time for change is now. The time for empowerment is now. The time for action is now. Will you stand with these brave women? Will you be part of this revolution in community safety and personal empowerment? The choice is yours, and the impact of that choice will ripple through generations to come. Let's not just talk about change. Let's be the change. Let's create a world where every woman, regardless of her race or background, feels safe, empowered, and in control of her own destiny. Because when we empower women, we empower communities. And when we empower communities, we change the world. The revolution in gun ownership is here, and it's being led by Black women. The question is not whether this change will happen, it's already happening. The question is, will you be part of it? Will you support it? Will you help shape it into a force for positive change in our society? The power is in your hands. The choice is yours. What will you do with it?